Good day, people. My name is Titus Mutua, and this is Audacious Vybe. We are the channel that talks about everything young professional. We are bold, authentic, and godly. And today, I am hosting my friend for a long time, Welly, Bishop. I have to get used, still getting used to Bishop. Hi, Bishop.
Asante sana, karibu sana. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very well, and thank you for hosting us. This is actually Bishop's studio, and we thank you for hosting us.
It's audacious enough, yeah?
It's audacious enough. Okay. It is audacious enough. So, Bishop.
Yes.
You don't look like a bishop. Let's start there. I mean, my dad is a bishop. He's, he's going to 90.
Yeah.
And you know how bishops look.
Yeah.
So how are you a bishop? Let's start there. This conversation starts there.
That's Well, first of all, people don't really realize that Bishop used to be my nickname before, long time ago. It is my boys that came up with that name. They used to call me Bish. And as a nickname, it was because of the ability to maybe come up with some angles and some ways of navigating tough times. So Kina Charles who is here, Kina Ago, Jimmy, they started calling me where Bish, because they thought that there was a movie that is called Kill Point. I don't know if you've watched it, but you should watch it. It's a nice one. Of the American soldiers who came back and they tried to raid a particular bank as a way. They're just coming back from, I think, Afghanistan or Iraq. It's an old movie. So the lead guy there was called, they gave each other names. And so just like the Money Heist, so that one, they gave each other names. So the guy who was like, the mastermind and navigating to negotiations with the other team. The guy used to be called Bishop. Oh. So that's where they got the name. And then slowly by slowly, kazi kaanza kukuja, majukumu yakaanza kukuja. Then I found myself that now my nickname became now my job. It's become a formal name. Now my formal name, actually. Yeah. It's like even now people call me Bish. So it's like, is it a nickname or like nice? Yeah. We call her nice, and she's nice, and again she takes nice pictures and nice. So.
That's great to hear. And you are your church is called Life Pool?
Yes, Life Pool Chapel.
Tell us about Life Pool.
Well, the idea of Life Pool was that we provide a starting point for people. And by providing a starting point, that means we have to reach, raise, release, and reproduce. Yes. So, and our main pillar is that we have to reach. So that means we have to start with somebody where they are. Yes. And then we have to raise, that is inculcate the kingdom values and discipline in this particular person. And then we have to release, that is position them strategically in the marketplace as a mission place. Yes. And then when they're in the marketplace and in the marketplace as a mission place, they reproduce in the market. So that is what Life Pool is endeavored towards, a starting point for marketplace missionaries. And you've been around for how long now? We're actually celebrating our 10th year this year in August. Wow. So we didn't. It's been 10 years already. It's been 10 years already. So because I remember when we started. By the way, I was. You are a city. Yeah, yes, we are part of us. Founding members. You're a founding member. You should come for the 10th anniversary. I should. Yeah, you're there in the city. Interesting. So 10 years. Your church is predominantly young people. Yes. Is that by design or by accident? Or I think maybe most of the time young people will resonate maybe with what we do, the kind of strategy we employed in going out there, because when we wanted to provide a starting point, we had to really de-self ourselves from what we had known to be the image and identity of the church. So in the process, we found that majority of the population was, let's say, 65 of the population back then was below the age of 45. And then between 45 and 65 comprised of about 20%. But now that number has even gone higher because 10 years later, a kid who was maybe 9 now is 19. So in 10 years, more people have joined that bracket. So now we are talking about 75% of the population. So if you are going to go reaching, you want to be clear that you are reaching the majority of the population who can shape the culture of the country and the culture of the globe. So I think by design we intended that we wanted to be with the 75% of the population because most of the problems and most of the people who will set the culture for the next generation are in that bracket.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how far have you grown? How many campuses do you have right now?
We are now at 5. 5 of them. We are setting up a new one. Like we are setting up a new one and also rebranding after 10 years. We also feel a need to rebrand ourselves. So we are also in the process of evolving into new identity in how we present ourselves out there. So it's also a very exciting time for us. So we are 5. So there are those which you are calling apostolic bases, and then there are those which you are calling missional bases. So currently we have 4 apostolic bases, the ones that are there, that we are now setting up a new one. It's quite taxing. You know, we started in a classroom. You were there in the first day.
I remember.
And coming from where you came from. So we were in the classroom, we were on 5th floor. And now to be in
there was another church, and I think it was...
There were 5 churches in the building, not another church.
Before you get up there...
There was a church on the ground, every floor and a church.
Yeah, you were tempted to start just...
where you are.
By the time you go.
You should actually give the story. When we are doing our 12th anniversary, now we will change and now we will. But so now we have grown. Kitengela is able to stand on its own, outering. Weathered a lot of storms, but it's able to stand on its own. Kisumu, there's a CBD which has their own journey and challenges, and then there's now Northlands, which is coming up. So and then there's this online church, which I'm the pastor.
And just because you've mentioned online, the online church, we're just having a conversation. Just because you've mentioned the online church, this COVID time, pastors have had to. We've had to change how we do ministry. How has that been for you? Were you online before? Is this something that you were doing actively before? Or did COVID-19 shock you into the online?
I think it had to make us rethink. Because we used to be online, Facebook post, poster, comment, share, I say something nice, you tweet it. But the levels of investment that were needed to fully make online the platform for believers as a church was never really, let me say, at the level we thought. Because I used to do, you remember I used to be on KTN in the morning.
Yes.
So we had some equipment, you record, you send it to KTN, they air it for you. You have something nice to say, you take a good picture of yourself, you write a quote up there, you put it out there. You are preaching on Sunday, somebody takes a picture, you put it out there. So it was something we were doing randomly and not with the intensity and the intentionality that it has been required of us in the last, let me say, 1.5, let me say almost 2 years now, 1.5, 2 years. It has changed everything for us, I would say, because now, you see, you say we are open, we open for 4 months, munakohoa tena, tunafungiwa. Munacha kukohoa, tunafunguliwa, tunakohoa, tunafungiwa. So now it gets to a place you just...
It stopped being an intervention to being a way of life.
Now it's a way of life. So we just said, first of all, let us first make this the church, because hii kushinda watu akikohoa mnafungua mnafunga, tunaacha kukohoa wanafungua.
Yes.
So that now has made this become the church, and that's how now we had to like turn this into a full-fledged studio, which we are now getting to turning it into a full-fledged TV.
Wow. Good stuff.
I hope
Now,
so.
let's talk about money and church. You know me, I'm very interested in the money conversation in church. And what's your take? I think this is a question I ask everyone who comes to Audacious Vybe. Should Christians make money? Should we be rich? Should we be wealthy?
Leave alone that. Our heritage is wealth. When God called Abraham, he didn't say, come, get out of your father's house and out of your father's what, and I'll make you poor and miserable and broke, busted, and a beggar. Abraham would have said, I'm okay in my father's house. I'm not going. But he said, I'll bless you and make your name great. And I wrote a book called Breaking the Back of Luck when we started, because we started our church in that abject
You actually
strain.
did a series.
A series. It was actually a series
Yeah.
that turned into a book later, years later. And I remember when that hit me was like, one of the things it was like God was saying like, hey, go make your people rich. And I was thinking, I'm just a preacher. How can I make my people rich? And then secondly, Ecclesiastes says that there was a poor man whose wisdom could save the city, but he was poor, but nobody remembered him. And it says the wisdom of the words of a poor man are not remembered.
Yes.
So he could save the city from the siege, but nobody could remember him. And clearly it was like, you may be wise, but without wealth, you cannot be given the respect that we so desire. When the president was yesterday, the president of Tanzania was in the country. He met the president of Kenya. He met the parliamentarians. Then he met the business community. And when countries are discussing, they discuss across business terms.
Yes.
They say we want to create a better environment for trade. And Jesus says that the children of God are like children in the marketplace. And now that emphatically stated to me that if I want to be of value to the country, if I want to be a light to the world, I have to solve a problem in the world that is creating darkness. And one of the major problems that is creating darkness in the world is poverty and joblessness. So our church, I would say, we run strongly on building and making people entrepreneurs. Turning people into intentionally pursuing financial freedom. Not just financial security, moving them into financial freedom. And that's what even Breaking the Back of Luck was all about. Telling people, if you're employed, push beyond. If you're this, push beyond. And it has worked. We have seen tremendous evolution in our church culture. So money is a tool that is necessary for building and unlocking opportunities and the talents and the potentials that exist in a person and in a community. And
I agree, Bishop. But why is it so hard to have that conversation in church? I know you are not always at Life Pool, so I know where you come from. Why is that conversation so hard to have? Why is it that whenever we have the conversation about wealth and money, I call it a lopsided conversation. We only talk about money when we are telling people it's time to give, okay? Other than that, we don't talk about money. Why is that conversation so difficult to have?
Because I believe we come from a place where we sometimes believe that money will make people evil, money will make people not submissive, money will make people not available in terms of what they do for the work of God. But I discovered that the first assignment for Jesus to capture Peter, who was the first apostle, he first made his boat catch more fish than it had ever caught. He told him, go out there and cast your net. And when Peter caught a lot of fish, that's when he started worshiping. And I believe sometimes you can never tell the heart of worship until somebody has made and mastered material wealth. And so I believe it's also a deception of the devil to keep the people of God defeated and envious of the people of darkness or the children of darkness. Because in the end, because we live in a financial world, at some point when financial needs kick in, the children of Israel, just the children of God, let me not say Israel, the children of God, just like Isaac, will be tempted to go to Egypt. The way Isaac got to a place and there was a drought and he wanted to go to Egypt, and God said, don't go to Egypt, dig your own well. And he dug the well of his fathers.
Yeah.
So I believe sometimes what makes it hard is maybe the deception that comes and the blindness that comes with discussing money. Because money has a science to it, money has a belief to it, money has a persona to it, and so money is, wealth is weighty and complex, and simple-minded and simple understanding of it cannot give us the levels of wealth that we do. So most of the time we push people to financial security rather than freedom. Yeah. So I think also we are afraid that when people have money, they are free. They can now choose whether to come to your church or to go to Zach's church.
And what's the correlation, Bishop? What's the correlation between your faith, my faith, and the fact that as a believer, my faith should lead me into a life of, choosing my words carefully, because they are bashers of prosperity. Prosperity, I do not want to say prosperity, even though I've already said it. What is the link? What does my faith have to do with me being financially free?
Well, whenever Jesus met faith, he would say, your faith has made you whole. That is to tell you that faith should make you holistic. So faith should not just meet an isolated problem.
I think you should say that again. Because whenever we read that verse, I think it was, this guy is a cripple.
Yeah.
So whole means he's
Whole,
able to walk.
His whole meant that he's not only able
Not
to walk,
physical.
but he's also able to function. Whatever this limitation you had, whether it was physical or demonic, now you're able to function. That is holistically. Your faith has made you. So the purpose of faith was to make you whole.
Yeah.
So faith is a holistic premium. That is, it should be able to make you emotionally, spiritually, financially, socially, politically sound.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because your church is predominantly young people, in pursuing their God-given talents, how does that relate to them making money or making wealth?
Yeah. So when we talk about wholeness, that means that now there must be need for development, because faith is a seed that starts as a mustard, but it is only when it grows that birds come and perch on it. So that now pulls for development of disciplines being added to you, so that now you can be able to properly pitch whatever gift God has given you. Because remember, the Bible says that your gift shall make room for you before kings.
Yes.
But the Bible says, see a man who is, that word diligent there, other versions say, who is skillfully applied. And that's what diligence is. Because utakuwa wewe ni mtu wa kujituma, but unajituma, but you're not skillfully applied. You are clumsy. Things, even if you sit here, tutasikia kitu imeanguka, you are not skillfully applied. And it says that, see a man who is skillfully applied, he shall not stand before meager men, but before kings. So we see, your gift can bring you before, but your lack of skillful application can make the king resent you.
Yeah.
So, or you may not be able to get your worth from that opportunity with the king. You see, what you're doing for free, somebody is doing for 1,000.
Yes.
What that person is doing for 1,000, another is doing for 10,000. What that person is doing for 10,000, another is doing for 100,000. What that person is doing for 100,000, another is doing for 1 million. It's the same gift, but different disciplines and skills added to it is able to now scale that it moves from free to 1 million, and it's the same gift. And so what must happen is now those developments begin to be added, some insights, some mentorship that help in the pitching of how you really scale what God has put into you. Remember this. There's a verse that bothers me. I'm actually planning a financial summit. I believe the reason why the children of Israel, some of them were not able to really settle in the promised land, was because God said, I'll give you cities you never built, houses you never built, wells you never dug, olives you never planted. So the system of running cities was not in them. They were running homes. And God is talking of cities. I'll give you vines you never planted. These were not, they were not used to planting vines. They were used to, when they were in Egypt, they used to working for another, they were used to working under supervision. Then you go and find a city system that now requires levels of intellect for them to be sustained, because you can move into a city and it collapses because your culture has not been exposed to city demands. And so he says, when I give you all these things, I'll give you all these things. You begin to discover that an inheritance is easy, but multiplying an inheritance, that's where the real work comes in. So I think those are the things that should come in. That now we train our people, don't wait to be given. Teach yourself how to run things so that even the little that you're given, you can run it and it multiplies.
And you bring into perspective a culture that our generation has of starting at the top. We want to start at the top. Talk to us about that, because I know you're a person who started. You know, people see you now. People see, and that's the thing with our generation. Whenever we are talking about financial freedom, whenever we are talking about wealth, we want to start at the top. We want to associate with people who are at the top, and that's one of our biggest mistakes. So when we are talking about financial freedom, and when we are talking about breaking the back of luck, how does starting from the bottom look like?
Well, unfortunately, we have not created starters because starters are despised. And because we have created a testimony celebratory culture as a church that nani yako na ushuhuda, I can't say nimeanza kuuza mboga.
Bishop, umeongea kama apostle sasa. A testimony
We got to, you know, a testimony is a triumphant. We have created a triumphant feeling like
that we only celebrate people once they are
there. So if I say that nimeanza kuuza mboga jana, that doesn't feel like a testimony.
That doesn't qualify as a testimony.
Tunashanga hiyo ni nini? Tuambie umeuza gunia ya mboga. But because we feel like starting is a point of being despised, and that's why for many of us we are not starters because of the shame of starting. But if you are ashamed to start, then that automatically means you will not have the endurance to succeed. And so we have created a very soft culture and a very soft believers because money requires hardness. There is a hardening required for you to build so that you can endure the shame that comes with starting, because most of the people that are in your life will not be in your life the day you start something. Most of the people who are in your life will not support you when you start something. Most of the people who are in your life, they are there to celebrate with you. But success and financial freedom requires you to be recalibrated so that you are able to start from a very shameful place. And so this, I'm not saying it's bad to have a testimony. I know God can do it in a day. But God said, so that the land does not remain barren, we'll start little by little, little by little. So we have not learned to celebrate little by little. Jesus says this, he who is faithful with a little.
Yeah.
Now, you'll discover that many of us are saying, oh God, give me much, but the path to much is faithful with a little.
Yes.
I always remember when the church was small, we didn't have people who could do this, make this juice, make this. You'll discover that when church, even when a church is small, just see how people serve that small pastor mwenye anaanza. You actually treat him like you're doing him a favor. Now, when the church becomes stable, now the people who want to serve you are now the ones saying, we are not receiving people in this place. Because we are taught to serve big, but you learn more when you're serving little. Yeah, so that's what makes many of us not be able to start the journey of entrepreneurship and the journey of financial freedom.
Is that the reason, Bishop, why we have so many unemployed young people?
Yep.
Is it because even you've said we have a soft culture, so someone wants to get off university, get a good job, and then from there, like go up the ladder. So if you tell someone to, use the skills you've gotten from university to start something, they do not want to start because it is a soft culture. So for your people in church, what is it that you're doing deliberately?
Well, one thing I have always told them is that your graduation and your education is not experience. And so whether you've graduated with a BCom or architecture, that's not experience, that's education.
Yes.
Experience is acquired skill. And how do you acquire that? You either find somebody and serve, or start something and grow it. And that's now, if you come to a church, you'll find that the person who has done BCom in this is selling tomatoes in this area. The person who has done this particular field is moving in that particular discipline and design. So we are not attached to our professions.
Yes.
We are not attached to what we went to school to. We are now opportunity creators, not opportunity seekers. We see and create an opportunity, because remember this, God says, I looked for a man to stand in the gap. So that is to tell us, amongst men, there are gaps. And so if you are a man and stand in the gap, maybe there is a need for tomatoes in an area, and you stand in that gap. God will use you to fill that gap. Maybe you need tomatoes. You can't say, me, I'm an architect. If there's an opportunity for tomatoes, you stand in that gap. Or potatoes, you stand in the gap. The more you stand in the gap, the more valuable you are to God.
And the discipline of serving. I have noticed, this is something I have noticed. I have noticed that you have so many people who are just serving. So many people who are just serving. There's someone who's bringing you water. There's someone else who's doing this. You always have people who are serving. Do you teach this? Is this something that you deliberately teach your people? Because they are young people. And one of the most difficult things I think I have found with young people is that they'll always be asking, what's in it for me? Okay. So you want me to be carrying your Bible? How am I going to gain from? Is it something that you're teaching your people, the discipline of service, especially at Life Pool?
One, we've taught it, and two, one of the things I've trained is that you can't be a master until you learn with the masters. And service is what gives you access. Jesus said, whoever desires to be great, so meaning many people desire to be great, but the path of being great, because somebody will say, why did I join the program? You'll be asking, if he comes and says, hey, whoever desires to be rich, everybody will be like, hey, why are we here? We want to be rich. But if you're told now, go and serve. Now, the purpose of serving is to develop organizational development, and secondly is to develop the instinct and the reflex for things that will work. You see, the more you succeed, or the more you conquer, you develop the instincts for battle, the instincts and the reflexes for things that will work. That is why you'll find that there are things like when you sit with daddy, you'll discover, you may go tell him something and he'll tell you, yo, wacha.
Yes.
And you wonder, hii kitu na vile tumekaa, you think you have seen it. But even without him going deeper, his instinct is so refined that he'll just tell you, leave that. And then you go and do it, and then you discover, na hii kitu tulikuwa tumeambiwa tu tutiane nayo zi.
Yeah.
Now you are now fixing the problem because you are now learning from experience. You could not get it from the instinct. And so when you serve, you come close enough to sharpen your own instinct, and that is to operate above intellect,
Yes.
and to develop your own organizational skills. The more you stay around me, the more you'll discover how important it is for you to be organized. So you can trace that all the chaos in your life has a foundation in discipline, in lawlessness. And so if we can bring that value for order, like if you come around me, the reason why we can have fun is because everything must be in order. Everything must, it's not can be in order, should be in order. We will introduce words like anticipate.
Yeah.
We don't want you to tell us what tumefika. Anticipate, anticipate. Anticipate me, anticipate them, anticipate this. You should have two ways of doing the same thing, and a third way standing beside. And everything needed, you should anticipate it before it happens, so that we are not moving from crisis to crisis. But when this crisis comes in, there is already a management system that is ready to mitigate it. So it's something that we have taught, and I keep pushing. It's not easy, because there will always be somebody who, when they get their first breakthrough, they'll feel they've made it. But we don't give up. We just push and push and push.
It becomes a culture.
It becomes a culture.
As you do that.
As you do that, yeah.
Bishop, let's talk about there's something that we were just talking about just before we started the interview. Let's talk about sonship in ministry. I know it's something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Where are we going wrong? Because we haven't gotten it right, especially in East Africa, maybe. West Africa, maybe West Africa doing very well. We haven't gotten it right. Where are we going wrong in our generation?
I think we are success seekers, and so that consumption and production mentality has made us not to be loyal. You ask a young guy, if you ask our fathers, my father was not a pastor, he'll tell you, I've worked for 2 organizations in a 45-year career.
All his
but
life.
You move across and ask Josh, how many organizations have you? I'll tell you 6. And now when did you clear school? 2010. You'll wonder, how have you worked for 6? We are success seekers and not relationship builders. Now, that means that we easily, and that's why we easily normalize fatherhood, because we feel like I can move across the road. I can go to your church. I can come out of this church and go to your church and be your son. And then I get tired of your church and move to that. Because you're success seekers. You're just seeking success. Yeah. And we are this vibe generation, I feel your vibe, yake sana. So whenever there is a point where there is a need for discipline, or there's a need for correction, and then we also don't allow our fathers to err. So we are the hams in East Africa. We are the hams. Whenever we see our fathers either in a vulnerable situation or in a position of human frailty or weakness, or you discover you are in your father's tent and you discover he got drunk in his tent, not in your tent, we easily go out and say, hey guys, don't believe our fathers, but you don't know that our fathers carry covenant. I came for Papa, I think it is 7 or so years ago, when you invited us there. And when Dad was speaking, we were seated on the floor. And those are the things that probably built us. And this generation does not see that as capital. Like, having a father is a greater capital than having a job. Having a father is a greater capital than having a talent. having a father is a greater capital than having money. But they feel like, I'll just move my tithe to you and I'll become your son, or I'll move my money to you and I'll become your son. But there is a scope of life that you can't develop without a father.
Yes.
And that scope is what now this generation lacks. And that's why you find them with this soft culture, because there is nobody who stands up in their face. Our fathers like David are running because we are Absaloms. We have made our fathers run naked from the throne because we are so interested in becoming kings that we'll now even recruit Ahithophels and the people around our fathers so that they can come and make us king. But your father cannot run naked and it be okay with you. It's impossible. It's impossible.
So what's the hope for the churches that we are starting? And another question, can you teach a believer to be a son?
I'll say partly I'm afraid where the future of the church will look like. Because we will have so many wounded fathers that eventually we will have children who are exposed early. Like, you know, there is a place where a child can be born and stay in an incubator and survive. Yeah. But if they are born before their functional features develop, we call it miscarriage, immature.
Yes.
So we are finding that that's what it is. So I am afraid that we may find ourselves in a position whereby the people who can father people will be so wounded, but that they will not have the heart and the commitment to father. And the people who need to be fathered will try to play fatherly roles to people, because by some default, one of them may succeed. Yeah. But that orphan spirit will make them become, will create children who they themselves don't have the identity of that comes with a father. Yeah. And on the second question of can you teach a Christian to be, I believe that a Christian should first of all embrace that true spirituality is expressed in sonship. Jesus did everything on earth with the identity of a son, not a master, a son. And when you become a son, service becomes your immediate expression. You only said, I am here to do my Father's will. We are afraid to even say, I am here to do my Father's will. We are like, I'm here, you know, mimi nimekama hapa kufulfill assignment yangu. Jesus did everything on the identity of, I am here to do my Father's will. That which I see the Father do, that I do.
That's just interesting, because Jesus never said that he had an assignment.
He never said he had an
His assignment was to do the will of the Father. Yeah. But we all have assignments. When my assignment here is done, you know,
I move to the next. Najitoa. And that's the addiction to this praise and this motivation. And I can tell you, when you lose a father, it will show. You can join a church, but you can't join a father. You are born to a father. It is his discipline. It is his way of thinking. It is his way of investing in you. And you can join a church, but that does not necessarily mean you have joined a father. Yeah. Because sometimes these father-son relationships are so spiritually bonded, and you'll discover, how do I know my true father? When it is hard for you to move, it is a sign you are losing a father. That's your father. When it's hard for you to move on. You know, there are people who leave church, but they're still trying to know what happened. That tells you their inner being is still connected. So it's not that they have moved. They're just prodigal. Yeah. And so their heart tells them that that's your father, but their ego tells them, I cannot be wrong. And I told one of my sons this, that your father can be wrong, and you can be right, and you end up wrong. Yeah. Your father can be wrong, and you are right. Like Joseph. Yes. He saw his father going to bless children. And the Bible says he took it by the hand and wanted to move it this way. And the father said, I know what I'm doing. Even when you see I am wrong, there's something I'm doing that I know.
What does having a father, I'm talking about ministry-wise, what does having a father do for a young minister?
If there's anything I would urge a young minister is, sometimes when you hear our stories, you can easily say, by the way, I've seen Pastor Welly, Welly for purposes. Don't dare. Don't dare step out there without a father. I'm telling you, free of charge, don't dare.
There are people who say, I've just remembered, there are people who say, why do you need a covering? We can all access God.
That's what I'm telling you. Don't dare. Those things you say when you're still in the house. When you get out there and discover what it takes to run a house, because you remember we said running things.
Yes.
How to run things, how to make things work, how to, the scope that is needed to make things work does not come from a talent. It comes from, you see, Jesus said, it is fitting for you to baptize me. He could have baptized himself. John was not going to give Jesus the Holy Spirit, and Jesus was sinless. Baptism was for sinners who repented. Jesus had no sin to repent. Why was he being baptized? He had no sin to repent, and God himself was the one giving the Holy Spirit. But it is only when John baptized him that the Father said, now this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. If you cannot bow to a man you can see, let me tell you, it will be impossible for spirits to bow even to you. I was teaching about a month ago, and I said the reason why Jesus becomes and carries authority on earth is he came through the authority ordained by God.
Yeah.
He came through a womb. The reason why the devil is resisted on earth is he did not come through a womb. He came through a snake. He
came the wrong way.
He came through some wisdoms. Alikuja na ma wisdoms.
Yeah.
He didn't come through a womb.
Yes.
He looked for the wisest thing. Akona, the snake was the wisest. That was not a womb. So he just influenced and infused himself in some wisdom because he was too proud to even find a womb to come through. He didn't come through a womb. He came through some wisdoms. And that's the deception of young people.
And that's interesting. It's interesting because it brings into the picture the issue of authority. Jesus says, he was talking to, is it the centurion? It's actually the centurion who told him, I am a man under authority. So when I tell one to go,
he goes.
I can tell one to go and another one to come. And so because I understand authority, then I also... So I hear you saying for us to be able to be successful, then we have to be sent.
Yeah.
And for us to be sent, we have to be under authority, a certain authority.
Yeah. It gives you legitimacy. Let me tell you, there is nothing as hard as building legitimacy. If personally, and I'm not saying this braggadociously, if personally I was within the family I was born and I was not in life, if personally, most of the people of my contemporaries would never have caught up with me. If all things remain constant, even you'd not be here.
No.
You'd not be here.
Doing what?
You'd be if by just, and maybe he would not have given me a gift, would not have given me money, but if he just transferred his legitimacy and credentials and say, hear him, we would not be talking from this place. Probably this place would be owned by us.
Yes.
Because of legitimacy gives you accelerated results. The last 10 years, I've been building the legitimacy of Lifepool.
10 years.
Not of Welly Odendo. Welly Odendo has always been legitimate.
Yeah.
But the legitimacy of Life Pool has cost me 10 years and at great personal losses, which I should not have incurred. I hope I'm telling somebody that.
I hope so too.
Some of the personal losses, you see, when people will come and see, you've gotten this, you see my car, you see this, the process of building legitimacy, that means very few people survive that process.
Yeah. That's why you need a foundation.
You need it. If there's one thing you should work for, you would rather go and carry a Bible, wash the car, dust the church, and come out of those gossip mongers and tell you, oh, sijui, they collected 10 million, you are here scavenging, you are suffering. Because you'd rather serve for 7 years and take off in 7 months than take off in 7 months and struggle for 7 years.
Yeah.
Legitimacy.
I tell people, as long as I am on my father's pulpit, I don't have to struggle to look for someone. If I stand on that pulpit, I will preach.
You see,
This is a foundation.
You don't even need, you see, when you're coming here, when I've been to the lovely church, Isili there, a couple of times, you prepare someone because you know somebody's coming. That's a legitimate altar.
Yeah.
You know, like when Elijah built the altar, he could tell the people, come to me. That was a legitimate altar.
Yeah.
So you don't even think, will there be people to listen, like on Sunday? That's never a factor. When you now have, first of all, not to prepare the sermon, but to first of all find the room,
Yes.
find the seats, then ask yourself, and where will the microphone? And then announce for the service, and then you come and find it's your 4 friends who showed up. So you're thinking, will I need a PA? Legitimacy.
The power of legitimacy.
If, you see, once you have a legitimate altar
Yeah.
that has been built for you, let me tell you, you will be shocked how much you can do for God. Because you will not struggle with legitimacy. You will quickly move into building legacy.
Yeah. So one last question on sonship and all. This is in the marketplace. As we were driving here, we had a conversation. And one of us was asking, why are Kenyan supermarkets failing? I know we've been talking very heavy spiritual things, deep stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, why is it that when we move from the first generation into the second generation, there's always trouble?
I think many, you know, we've created party people, where my party people at, where my party people at. And this first generation really, really worked hard, really, really made sacrifices, really, really prioritized the service delivery. We are inheriting after the partying. And so consumerism and the culture of celebration and YOLO, that doesn't run companies. That eats profits. One of the companies, one of the big supermarkets, the father made a change of the MD and they started a fight. I think the top tier leaders, the brothers and all that. And in their fighting now both of them have lost. I think many of us are very egocentric, that we put our own needs and our own security above the security of the next generation of leaders and the next generation of doing things, because every generation will come with their style, and sometimes their style may displace you as a person, but may not displace your voice. And so because you're so addicted to waking up and going to this seat, then you're told you've been replaced. You're wondering, so where will I get my seat? So now you go back and fight for the seat, and then eventually you find that you've caused a whole enterprise to collapse. So we are very egocentric, which is short-sighted people who, and maybe some of them succeeded by luck.
Yeah. And who's to blame? Do we blame the first generation? Didn't they teach the second generation that we only got here by working hard? that there was a discipline, that it is not celebration that gets a company where it's supposed to be? Or do we blame the second generation for just being, a celebratory generation?
I stopped blaming my
Or
fathers.
we don't blame anyone? What do
I stopped blaming my fathers because I discovered they had lesser to work with than we do. They didn't have this camera. Dad didn't have this camera. The last time I was with him, that is 7 years ago, he was saying, just that church in Machakos had planted then 1,000 churches. The cost of these things, the technology then. So imagine the road network. Everything was in shambles.
How are they able to do
so
much with
so little? And we cannot do 2 churches with all these.
With all these cameras and
all these social media.
and YouTube
They
and
didn't have
everything.
that.
Yeah.
They didn't have all of that. And so I learned not to blame them because sometimes the toll it takes to set up and start up and bring something from the ground is a lot. So they may have missed hugging you before you went to sleep. They may have missed giving you a good night kiss or showing up at your birthday.
I
or
wasn't.
showing up.
They didn't hold me.
They may have
enough.
missed because of the cost of digging the ground and doing all that. But we now, with all this foundation to start, with all this tarmac, with a road flying up the sky, with broad roads, and now you are driving at your age.
With all the education.
With all the education, with all the language.
And Bible schools.
And we can't do it. It's because I think we take them for granted. And now we spend our time complaining of what they didn't have. Like the people who will come into Lifepool Chapel, they will never know the personal losses that I've had to go through. But they will see my mistakes. Oh, but where is this? And why don't you have this? And why is your temperament like this? Because they don't know the cost it took to get into the quarry and get the stones and blow the stones and bring them and shape them and transport them and bring them there so that now you can build houses. So I would say it is us who are not paying attention. Our generation does not pay attention. To our generation does not have a premium for learning. Our generation values motion more than education. So we are just on the move, on the move, on the move. So we are not grounded. So I would not blame our fathers. I would not blame the previous generation. If there was anybody to be blamed, it would be me. It would be me who get easily entitled before we have achieved anything. So I would say it is us.
It's easy to look at your father and pick mistakes.
Pick mistakes and say he did.
Until you get to 60, 70 and you look back.
And you discover you've not even done a quarter of what they have done with all those mistakes.
With all those mistakes. It's a culture of entitlement. It's a culture of entitlement that you found everything, table set, food ready, people come to church without you even
doing anything.
Without you doing anything, you don't need to fast and pray.
Yeah.
And then people come to church and then you become entitled. Wow. Bishop. Deep, interesting conversations. We need to take a break. Yeah. We will take a break, and when we come back, we will be talking about a new book that is on the way. We didn't mention that you are an author. So we will be talking about your new book.
Thank you.
And you will be telling us more about it in a few. Hi, I am a young professional and a Christian as well. Do you know what constantly goes through my mind? I'll tell you. I think about how to make money. I think about investments, career progression, how to save my money, and retirement. I also think about family, marriage, and relationships. I think about these things and how they relate to my faith and my God. But there's one thing that I also constantly think about. I wonder where it is that I can get this information from. Are you like me? If you are, worry no more. I have got you covered. On this channel, I am going to be talking to men and women who are doing amazing things and audaciously influencing the world in the different spheres of their lives. We are going to be having bold, authentic, and godly conversations on this and many other issues that affect you as a young professional. Are you ready? You'd better be, because we are. My name is Titus Mutua, and this is Audacious Vybe. Welcome back to Audacious Vybe. My name is Titus Mutua, and my friend with me
Again.
Welly, Bishop Welly, Odendo. Thank you so much for the time that we had the conversation. Very enlightening conversation. So we promised you guys that we would be talking about Welly's new book.
Yep.
Oh, first of all, before we go to the new book, you've written a couple of books.
Yes.
Tell us.
I've written Roadmap to Greatness. I've written Breaking the Back of Luck. That's Roadmap to Wealth. Now, this is a sequel to that. It's called Twinkle. So the others have not published. It's this one that I've published.
Yeah.
There's one I wrote, but I was shy to publish. Then again, I thought I should. Good Sex.
I think you should. I think you should publish that one. I mean, people need.
You're seeing the cameras in that.
It's a conversation that needs to be had. Definitely needs to be had. For sure. Yeah. Definitely. I think it's something that needs to be taught in church. No, on a serious note, Bishop, on a serious note, one of the biggest reasons why marriages fail, actually, is because of sex.
Yeah.
I am sure you know that. It's a big deal.
That's why I wrote the book. But
It's a big deal. I mean, so don't be shy. Do not be shy.
Which conference will
You know, in fact, if you want Bishop to publish that book, just type in the comment section that we need that book
merciless, you're
now.
typing already, not
Now.
Your crew is typing already.
We need that book now. So you are an author.
Yeah.
How is it being an author? First of all, does it pay? I think that's one of the biggest questions that people will ask.
Well, it does pay, but you know me, I'm not a person who is more profit driven. I am more into, I do things that first of all fulfill me. So my writings, like there's one on mental health, it's called Pandora. So some of these things I've not put them out there, but now the next 6 months they're going to be coming one after the other. Every 2 months I'll do another release. So there's one on leadership. There's the 10 rules of money that will be coming. So I've not put some of them out, but I do it because I find that since I cannot be everywhere at the same time, but my materials can be there, and now somebody can interact with that material wherever they are. So that's one. Two, done well, it pays, and done well, anything done well has a way of paying. Anything done well pays. If washing a car can pay, and digging a grave pays, and everything done well pays. So I think even writing done well, it pays.
Yeah. Great. And you've been writing for how long, Bishop?
This is now, my first book came out in 2005. That's about 16 years. Yeah.
Wow. You've mentioned something very interesting before I asked how long you've written. You've mentioned something interesting. You've said you do things, first of all, things that fulfill you.
Yeah.
Our generation is driven by something that will give me the next buck. What's the contrasts?
You see, money chasing can put you in harm's way if you are obsessed with money, and I know we will discuss that. When you start chasing money, because when you chase money without a value system, you chase money without a vision system, you chase money and it becomes an obsession.
Yeah.
It has a way of putting you into a lot of harm, because money by itself has no soul. So it will make you, it will take out your soul, and that is your will, your emotion, your intellect, and it will just leave you as a shell. So I find myself that I only do things that grow me, and I use money to groom me. So the things that grow me is learning, relationship. Those things grow me.
Yeah.
And then money just grooms my relationships. It grooms my persona, it grooms my ministry, it grooms the things that I do.
Yes.
And so I would not like to find myself obsessively driven by money. That's why even when I write, like the book we are releasing now, it was really like 2 years ago. And then COVID came last year. I had a tumultuous 2020, trying to adjust to this new normal. And then this year, then I've lost 2 of our friends, my big brothers and sisters in ministry. So it hit me how I can, if God forbid I should rest today, people will have to read through my manuscripts because I was too lazy not to publish in the name of too busy.
Yeah.
So I just figured that some of these things, I should at least put them in tablets so that somebody may wake up maybe in 2067, if the Lord does not come, and find that material and use it.
Yeah.
And that's the strength of, you see, our West African brothers, they are pastors, right? And they read their pastors' material.
Yes.
And that helps them become well-grounded and rounded in everything. We don't write. We preach, we do everything, but we don't write as much as I think some of us would write.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I want to now start doing. I want to focus more on my writing ministry. I have neglected it for a while, but I want to now start taking it seriously.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
writing is production and development of knowledge.
Knowledge, yeah.
And as Africa, not just for preachers, as Africa, we are very poor at that. We have been labeled as a consumer continent. We consume knowledge. We don't produce knowledge. Even people who are, professors who are supposed to be churning out knowledge do not consume knowledge. How do we change that?
It starts by us writing and then speaking. Ngoge wa Thiongo has been doing it for years, and he has won several awards on that. It starts by us speaking. It starts by us embracing that it doesn't have to be white to be right. Just because you know me or because I've written a book and you'll meet me across the street, it doesn't mean that what I wrote is useless. You are more bound to read a West African book or an American book or a British or a European because, chances are you may never meet that author. So you feel like it is this sanctimonious thing. But just because you know the author, it doesn't mean that what they are saying is not valuable, or just because you may bump into them. So even when we were just doing this, somebody had just called me and said, hey, I'm thinking of doing this and this on singles. I told them, right. I've encouraged so many people to go out there and write that I felt that, hey, I now have to again settle down and do writing. And writing is very emotionally demanding because you are visualizing a concept, and then again, you think as a teacher, but you write as a student. So you're trying to think, and then you have to be the student to see, will it clearly get into the mind of my student as I have conceptualized it? So it's very taxing and emotionally draining for a writer.
So now to your book, Twinkle, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about Twinkle.
Well, it's about branding. I figured that I started meeting, because I'm involved always with a lot of celebrities and let me say celebrities or people who are in the limelight, but it's not benefiting them in any way, but they're calling themselves brands. So maybe I have 1,000 followers on Instagram.
So I'm a brand.
I'm a brand.
Yes.
I have...
and we love that, this generation.
We have celebrity status, but the lie is that there is no job called celebrity. That's not a job. Not a job. And branding now is, Jesus says that a city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nobody lights a lamp and puts it under a lampshade. So that essence of moving lights out of the bushels and putting on a table is the aspect of branding, so that you can light a room. Sometimes we are doing the right thing, but we are doing it unbranded. So it has got no institutional sustainability. It doesn't command market response. It doesn't attract the right talent that are needed to push that particular thing. So we may be doing the right thing, but it becomes static.
Yeah.
We are now doing a lot of advertising because you're weak brands. But the stronger the brand, the better placed you are in terms of how you maximize your market share.
Yes.
in any field that you're in. Yeah.
And how do I turn what I am doing into a valid brand? Because you've said many of us are doing, we are doing this and that, and it doesn't appeal to the market because it doesn't have an institutional backing. So how do I develop myself as a brand?
Well, I'll say this, and maybe most of this you'll get in the book, that branding is about, first of all, bringing trust before trade. You are a brand by the trust you've built that enables you to trade. But you can be a hustle. A hustle is a trader without trust. And I'm not in
Say
any
that
way,
again.
I'm
A
not,
hustle
is a trader without trust.
Without trust.
So if you go into a shop and you see written Sony, you will not go there and ask if it's Origi, if it's good quality.
No.
You'll just say, if it's Sony, I already
It's
begin
legit.
to, So I say that the aspect of introducing human characteristics into whatever you're doing is what determines whether you're a brand or whether you're a hustle. A product this glass has no character.
Yeah.
It takes my character. When I come with this glass and my hands are black, or let me say dirty, I'm from handling charcoal.
Yes.
Immediately, my character will make you feel I can't trust the water. It's not that, and maybe the water may be clean, it may just be my hands.
Yes.
But the human aspect of a product is what determines the strength and the consumption of that thing. Now, most brands you'll see, they operate on trust, whereby when they tell you this will happen, you expect that to happen. So they have built humanity and humanized the institution so that it is predictable in their behavior. That I know when I open a Coke, it will always be a Coke. It will not have mende huko ndani. I know very well. They have been able to consistently make me predict their product. So that is what happens. So, but many of us, we are hustlers. Today, your chapatis are good. Tomorrow, sijui nilichange cooks, sijui nilifanya nini. So it's not standardized. So we cannot predict what
but
exactly
Bishop,
happens.
it's easy for you to teach or to talk about branding when you're talking about established corporates. How do you teach branding to, like, Mama Mboga? How do you teach branding to the guy who has an outlet, gas, for example, or the guy with a car wash? How does this? Because I mean, you expect a common person to read your book. So how does now the aspect of branding apply to the people who we are calling hustlers, so that they turn their hustle into a brand?
Well, it's a bit, what I teach mainly is how you build relationship with your customer.
Yes.
Because remember that one customer, the service you're providing that customer, he's getting other services. Like I'll buy mboga from you,
Yes.
meat from him, unga or uji from that person. And why is that? Because everywhere I am spending, you have earned my trust in mboga But a brand is that they have earned your trust holistically.
Yes.
If, let me say in this country, Safaricom goes into vegetable business, guess what? It will work. Why? Because it's Safaricom.
Yes.
We know that they will do the back end. Why? They have built a relationship with their people, and this is what I call real estate. They have bought acres of trust in people that whatever they associate their name with, people expect it to have standards of this kind. So I'll tell the person is that when you build a business, focus on how you build your relationships and focus on how you respond to the market in terms of when there is complaint, when there is a new competition, so that you are not so much consumed with competition, you are ever creating solutions for your clientele that enables them to consistently believe in whatever you're doing. You see, brand is about trust, and trust can be transmitted. If you can make me trust you, you don't need to be settled on one thing. You don't need to be called a mama mboga.
Yeah.
You can also start a hardware, and because we will need hardware materials, by the trust you used in one area, you can scale into another area.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that I see. The competition has never really been about price. It has always been about trust before trade.
Yes.
But if you build trade before trust, utaanza kukua mkora.
Talk to us about the relationship between having, what do you call it, a legit brand and excellence.
Well, what happens is that when you're doing branding and you want it to become legit, the first thing you have got to ask is, what are the things people identify me with? So that those things are the ones that make my marketing and advertising to work.
Yes.
You see, marketing and advertising come below the brand. In building your identity as a person and in building your identity as a corporation, you need to know what are the things. If I was to enter a relationship with you, what would I look for in a relationship? You'd say honesty, humility, humor. Those are things that would make me be more bonded to you. Now, how do I take those characteristics and bring them into my particular organization? How do I make sure that when you are in my environment, you will expect honesty, expect humility, and expect humor, that everything that is done with a level of humor, and that humor means perfection. Whenever we say humor,
Yes.
they say humor is the highest form of intelligence. So when we talk of humor, is that you are so good at it that when somebody comes near you, they find pleasure in watching you perform. So when we say that, when you see Messi playing, it's as if the other guys are not playing, because he makes it look fun until you discover the complexity that goes behind it.
Yes.
But when you're a brand, is that you're now able to take very complex processes and complex things and simplify them so much that the person watching on the outside, and you see, those are things people cannot compete with. Then us, unfortunately for an African, when you say humor, inamaanisha michezo, games, kuchekesha. That's not you. So brands are so delivery oriented.
Yes.
I always put on people that we must deliver. Delivery is a must. That's humor. You must deliver. No matter how complex it is, you must deliver. The largest company right now, Amazon, I believe. It's Amazon. I think it's Amazon now, number one. Or the richest guy, Bezos, bought 200B. Has built a business purely on delivery. Yeah. And brands are merchants of delivery. Acha kuambia, you know, here, utaniletea, kesho saa 8, ndakuwa hapo, saa 8, saa 9, 4.
Yeah.
But these guys have built that if they tell you, expect it in 4 days.
get it.
You will receive a message. So they have created a process that will beat the complexity of delivery. And so this is what makes a brand legit. And that's what we call humor. That's delivery. Delivery. And it's a complexity that goes to it until people think it's so simple. And that's why some organizations don't fear competition, because they know people can copy what you're doing, but they can never copy your commitment to delivery.
Yeah.
That is what sets you apart as a brand. How do you deliver?
Why is it so difficult? Let me ask it the other way. Why is it easy for people out there to do it and not people in church? First of all, talk about branding in ministry. I think this is just carved.
Yeah.
But talk about branding in ministry. How you do ministry. If I read your book, if I read Twinkle as a pastor, will I get something that can help me
Definitely.
as a minister?
You see, Jesus came and he said, John came eating locusts and fasting, I think. And you called him a madman or whatever. I've come eating and drinking. What is that? He's talking about types of branding. He said, John came in this fashion. You received him, but you still castigated him. I have come in this fashion. Jesus discovered, I cannot reach the same people with the same brand. I have to change how John came and how I came. John was preaching in the wilderness. Jesus was preaching in Capernaum, in cities, in developed areas. John was baptizing in the wilderness, in the bush and all that. That is how he had branded himself. And he was still effective in how he did it. He was wearing camel skin and eating locust and honey. While Jesus on the other side, man, the guy was there, man. He had raiment that people would touch at the hem of his garment and get healed. So when it comes to this, it goes to tell us that even a ministry needs to rebrand so that it can connect with the context where that ministry is situated and the generation that ministry is operating in. Without proper branding mechanisms, you will not connect with the generation that you are in. And the Bible says, and David served God in his generation. So without branding, you may be connecting not with your generation, but probably a generation that is coming or gone.
Yeah.
And so you will be outdated and irrelevant. So this will help you create relevant mechanisms and a relevant language and necessity of it in how you're going to be able to administer the truth to this generation.
Yeah, great. So, book is coming out, you said 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks, first week of June.
Why should someone buy it?
You need to buy it because the world has become flattened. So whatever you are doing right now, I don't need to know you, but I need to trust you. So the competition with the collapse of the walls of the world has gone higher. And if you are not a strong brand, you can't survive competition. Yeah. And you cannot wish for the good old days to come back. We are living in new times, and in these new times, competition now will be between brands, not goods. So you may have the right goods with a weak brand. You will lose to a strong brand with weak goods.
Okay, great. The other books that you've written, where do we get them from?
Well, the other books that I've written, unfortunately, I do masterpieces.
Wow.
So we publish
You're a brand like that.
A brand like that. We publish 1,000 and that's done.
That's done.
Then we do, like this one, we'll do 1,000 and that's done.
Yes.
So by the time this will be airing, we will have done that set of 1,000. And maybe now we'll start doing more digital books so that it becomes easier for people to consume them. Because that's where the world is going. People want to consume on the go. So I am trying to position myself on the go. So in the first week of June, I'll be really geared towards pushing this for the entire month of June.
So if someone asks if they can get Breaking the Back of Luck,
you'll have to wait for the digital print.
you'll have to wait for the digital print. And when is that coming?
We want to see, now with the people who develop this or convert this have been so busy because of the global change.
Yes.
But I'm trying to put myself also in the queue so that I can get somebody who can convert that into a digital book and enable us as we build the website for it so that it becomes easier to access it. So I'm pretty sure maybe because this month those are the things we are doing. By the time we get to June or mid-June, we will have probably hacked it. And now I'll be good to go because most of the material we want to put it there and have very few physical print.
All right. So Twinkle coming in the next 2 weeks, you will get that information on Bishop's
Welly Odendo.
social media handles. He will give them to us. Parting shots.
Well, my parting shot is, first of all, thank you very much for having us. We do believe that you guys are doing a phenomenal job, and I watched your previous interview with the GOAT himself, Captain Pastor M, and I think that was a phenomenal conversation. We are also happy to partner in any way that we can in doing this, and I can tell anybody out there that is listening is that find a family, especially in these times. Find a family, find a community of people that you can belong to. And that community of people, if you find a community that you can belong to, add to the community will add to you. Don't expect where you have not sown. Add to that community that you've found. If you're in Machakos or wherever you are, join this community and add to this community, because this community will add to you. It is easier to get an opportunity in a crowd than to get an opportunity in isolation. So don't be in isolation right now. Thank you.
Awesome. Bishop Welly Odendo, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For your time, your social media handles.
Welly Odendo, W-E-L-L-Y, Odendo.
Across Twitter,
Instagram,
Facebook. I think
what else?
YouTube.
YouTube, you're putting up that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Facebook, Twitter.
I think I'm the only Welly Odendo in the world.
Probably. You are a brand. You are a brand. So thank you so much for hosting us. We are grateful. People, this has been Audacious Vybe, and thank you so much for watching. My name is Titus Mutua. Remember, like our channel, Audacious Vybe. We are on Facebook as Audacious Influencers. So go there, subscribe YouTube channel, like our Facebook page. Na utabarikiwa sana. Till next time, God bless you.